Hi,
It's going.
welcome. We're glad to see you for the month of January. Brand new year 2021. Yay. I'm here with Mary, and we have a special guest with us, and Mary's going to introduce him. Ooh. Okay, erase it.
I need to get a haircut.
No, I think we should just go on and say, we've had technical difficulties. We did have the interview without the recording, and we're starting over, and we're still having difficulties. So just deal with it, people. Okay, so we're moving forward.
Okay, ready? Start.
Yes. Okay.
Did you hit the button to start, Mary?
Yes, it is. It is here. We are going.
Oh,
Okay.
good. Hi, everyone. We kind of had a little flubub there, but we're glad you joined us for the month of January. It is a brand new year, and this is two authors, books, and a beverage. I'm drinking orange juice.
And I need this tonight.
And Mary has her wine. We are so excited that we have a new guest with us this evening, and he is going to be introduced by Mary.
Hi. Okay, so I worked with this gentleman and met him and found out shortly after I started work at the state in commerce, well, real estate, I found out he wrote a book. Not only did he write a book, but it was his debut book, and it came out right when I started. It was so awesome to have an author friend in our work area. So this is M.L. Everett, and he has a great book, and we're going to talk about it tonight. And so before we go, I just want to hope everybody had a very nice holiday. I know that Judy and ML did, because we kind of discussed this all before when we thought we were taping. We all had great. So anyway, so do you want to go ask your first question, Judy?
I certainly will. Do we call you ML, or what does ML stand for?
Marv or Marvin. L.
Okay, Marv.
Yep.
Okay, we'll call you Marv. Okay, can you tell us a little about yourself, where you're from, your family?
Yeah, I am originally from Utah, and I was born in Bountiful, and I'm right now living in Syracuse, so I'm not too far away from where I was born. And then there was a period of time where we moved to Arizona with my wife and family, or at least two kids at the time. And we moved to Arizona for 10 years, and I loved it. It was warm. Couldn't have had better weather. It was paradise.
And you moved back here.
I moved back here. Yes. Utah's a good state. Yeah, it's a good state.
It is.
So.
Especially if you're a climber or you love to ski. I mean, we've got everything.
We do.
So,
we do.
Yeah, as long as I've got my hammock during the summer, I'm fine.
There you go.
There you go.
I can't stay in a hammock. I get in.
Oh.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I love it.
So tell us where you got the idea for your book. It's called Loons. And how did you come up with this idea?
I actually, when we moved back from Arizona, I was out eating lunch. I took lunch out in my car to get away from work. And while I was sitting in my car eating lunch in a parking lot, I came up with the idea. And as quickly as I could, I found a piece of paper and a pen and wrote everything down, chapter by chapter, and as quickly as I could. And then from there, I spent the next year and a half just typing the first draft of what I saw in my head that day at lunch in the car. And that's how I came up with the book.
And you still have the paper.
I do.
And you need to frame it. You need to frame it.
I should.
With
I don't
the
know.
book.
It'll have to be a cheap frame. I don't think it will be worth that much.
Oh, whatever.
Never know.
And how long did it take you to write this book?
From the time that I got the idea in the parking lot in the car, it took 15 years. And so really, I took about 4 years off. Um, so I wrote the first draft in about a year and a half, took 4 years off, and then really dug back into the book and started typing during lunches and breaks and vacation and anytime I could find on the train. If I was riding to work on the train, back to work and back home, or to work and back home, I would type on the train as well. So any moment I could find, I would type. And so it took 10 years if I were to boil it down. 10
Well,
years
that
to type
makes
it.
that makes you a true author, because all of us started out with a day job. And so we had to write either before or, well, I still have a day job, so what am I talking about? Anyway, so you write
I do
before,
too.
you write wherever you can, you write.
Right. And you're not alone as far as the length of time writing a book. I wrote my first book, the entire thing, and I was so proud of myself when I wrote the end. And then I put it in a box, shoved it under my bed for 15 years before I pulled
Wow.
it out again. Before I thought, I've got stories in my head. Why not get them out on paper? You know? So you're not alone.
Nope. And now you said you took a 4-year break, and why did you think that would helped your book?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. You read about Stephen King and his book about writing, where he talks about,
I love that book.
yeah, it was a great book, and it was really inspirational. And he talks about taking his first drafts, and he'll put them in a drawer and put them away for 3 to 6 months while he's writing something else. And Brandon Sanderson also gives the same advice. He does the same thing. He'll put it in a drawer for 3 months and let it sit. The thing that's interesting about Brandon Sanderson is he says he writes a really clean first draft, so he has a hard time letting it sit in a drawer, I guess, and digging it back out, because I'm sure he's got publishers saying, "Hey, move it along. We got to get this book." So, as a self-published author, I have the luxury of taking my own time and not being pushed.
Well, who's it? Margaret Mitchell, who wrote Gone with the Wind. Everybody knows or read Gone with the Wind. 10 years to write.
Wow. It's 10 years long. Have you read that? Have you seen that thing?
I have read it like 3 times.
Well, just watch the movie.
That's me.
I love the movie though.
Yeah.
But that's me, because I was young and it just grabbed me when I read the book, and then the movie came out and I saw the movie, and you just have each his own. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Your book takes place in 1934. So how did that's considered historical now. So how did you do your research?
Well, in a number of different ways. I guess, since I wasn't born in 1934.
I was going to say something.
I thought I'd head that one off, Mary.
Yeah. Oh, I'll get it in there. Don't worry.
But, again, you have to rely on so many other sources to get the information. One way that I did get the sources, at least for the countryside, is that I live back in Nova Scotia, which is Eastern Canada, just above Maine, where the book takes place. The scenes are so much the same. The forests and rolling hills and the colorful houses, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And it's rugged, and it was just the right place to center the book and where it should take place. But also, one thing that I did have available to me is that in Nova Scotia, which is the meaning of New Scotland, is that there's a mix of people there. There's people that have come from England and Ireland and Scotland, And so a lot of at least one of my characters who is Irish, they still speak that way a little bit in Nova Scotia. So it was interesting. So it wasn't very hard for me to um, dig into Lottie, who is one of the characters who is Irish. I had to do a little
I
bit of
liked her.
research. What's that?
I liked her.
Yes, she was fun and feisty.
Yeah.
She is one of my favorites. The other thing that I did is, you know, I talked to family members. I've had in-laws that lived through the Depression. I was able to ask them questions, and before they both passed away, and also my father, I could ask questions, and of things that you can't Google, you
Right.
know.
Mm-mm.
So that was good. And then as far as other ideas, I would get on and I would try to find magazines, or sometimes books weren't always the best, but magazines gave a lot of information about 1934 and things that were going on and prohibition, and it was fascinating. So I'd read a lot of those.
That's a good idea. I've never thought to look at magazines
Right.
at the time period.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a really good idea.
yeah,
So
but
tell me, Marv. Oh, I'm
yes.
sorry. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say books sometimes, especially if they're fictional books, they've already preconceived what their idea is of a certain period of time. And
Right.
so as an author, you want to have a fresh perspective. And so when you look at, and that's what I liked about magazines, I did look at some books, but I didn't find,
Magazines.
yeah, I didn't find them as helpful.
Great.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to be authentic because there will be that reader that will catch you if you are
Yes.
wrong.
They always will.
Yes.
So I've been there, done
Yes.
that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell me, Marv, how did you come up with the title?
Oh, the title, I struggle. There's a character in there named Dove. I almost named it Dove. Um, boy, let me tell you a real horrible title. And this was the first title that I was going to come up with. It's terrible, and it was called. I was going to name it Bats in the. Uh, Let me think of what the title is going.
Not Bats in the Belfry.
Yeah, Bats in the Belfry and a Dove on the Wing. That's what I was going to name it.
Now,
And I'm
Loons
like,
is so much better.
well, I learned that the shorter the title, the better.
Right.
And so actually, my wife was the one that came up with the idea of Loons, because there's the bird loons that I've got in the book, but the book
Mm-hmm.
is also about an insane asylum.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got a dual meaning to it.
Right.
And so
Right.
it was
Okay.
short. I liked it, and that's how I came up with Loons.
That's a good title. It
Yeah.
is.
It is. Now, I have it on very good authority that you have won some awards for your book.
I
Tell
have.
us about them.
I've been very fortunate. I submitted my book in 2019 into the Best Indie Book Award
Mm-hmm.
competition, and I won for mainstream literary fiction. So I feel very fortunate.
Congratulations.
I feel very fortunate with that. And
Mhm.
then in 2020, I entered it in. It's not so much a contest, but it's called the um, boy. It's the Indie, well, Indie Brag Medallion Honoree is what it is.
Okay.
And the brags it stands for book club basically, and it's an international book club, and so they have a number of people who will read your book and rate
Mm-hmm.
it, and if you don't come up with a certain high enough rating, then they don't accept it. So
Oh,
I was very, very
Well,
happy to get that
congratulations on that.
medallion
Yeah.
on
yeah.
that. So
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I really was surprised on that. On both, frankly. I, you know, you submit this in and it takes months and months and months. The first one I submitted in, it was like 7 or 8 months later, and you know, to finally hear,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so I feel very, very fortunate to have received those awards.
So do you have another book that you're thinking about starting, or have you started it?
There's one that I know Mary's after me. She's a good friend,
Yes,
and she's
I'm after him.
and really it's the one that's in the forefront. And actually because Mary's challenging me for November to write.
The NaNoWriMo.
Yeah, and I said I can't do it. And but I think this year, in 2021, my goal is to have the first draft done. And it's not a
Good.
long book, or it shouldn't be. Certainly, it'll be probably half, but I think it would be worthwhile for me to really push on
Good.
that. I can't seem to. I can't seem to escape that book. It always keeps coming back to me, and it's like, okay, I need to get
Better do
after it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
better do it.
You got to do it.
I've got the
So-
characters in my head, and every time I run into something that reminds me of it, I'm like, okay,
Got to do it.
yeah,
Well, Mark,
it's hard.
this has been fun. We are getting short of time.
Yep.
And we want to thank you. We appreciate you coming and telling our viewers about your book.
And
Well,
we will
thank
be
you for inviting
sure.
me.
We will be sure and have Marv's or ML Everett's, all his social media, his website, and everything will be on the YouTube and other places where we let you know all about the chat. I forgot what it was called, interview. And just so you guys know, we are going to give away one book. It's going to be Watching Jenny. It's a what is it? It's a romantic suspense, so it's totally different than Marv's, but you'll still like it. So anyway, thank you so much for coming, and we will see you in February.